Hey everybody, Campus Life video blog. We're talking about Christmas over the next couple weeks, and not just any type of Christmas. We're talking about the Grinch. And tonight we're going to kick things off because we're talking about hating Christmas. And we watched a clip last night of why the Grinch is so angry. And he's so angry because there's so many people around him that are having a fun time at Christmas. And people make fun of him, and that makes him angry. And so he begins to resent that. So here's my question that I posed last night. Why do people hate Christmas? Well, there's a bunch of different reasons. Some people just hate the commercialism of it. Some people have family matters that they just can't get over. There's cheesy songs. Christmas is a money pit. There's so much pressure to spend money at Christmas. It sucks. People feel like Christmas, there's just piled so much pressure on to be good and to have a happy time, and there's a lot of pressure, and people just that gets to people, and people get angry, and Christmas isn't that happy time that it's supposed to be for them. Other people are threatened because it's a Christian holiday, and if people aren't celebrating that, they don't feel like they're a part of that, and so that makes them angry. I think there's a lot of pressure to be happy at Christmas time because it's supposed to be a happy holiday, isn't it? And if you've experienced a crappy time during a happy time, we hate that. And we begin to resent others because everyone around us is having such a fun, happy time, and we're not. And that really sucks, and so that can get to us. And maybe you've experienced that, which is why we're talking about that. And last night we talked about the Grinch and why he's so angry. And he's so angry because he's different. And everyone around him is having such a good time, and they make fun of him because he's different, and he gets really angry and gets angry at the whole Christmas holiday because they're having such a good time and he's not. And that's really why. And so he tries to get back at them. I think a lot of us are like this. We just get into this funk because while everyone around us is having a good time, we aren't. And I shared my story last night about the time my Christmas changed. I mean, I grew up in a family where Christmas was happy and fun, and my whole family would come over and we would stay at our house, and my grandparents were there. Well, one year, both of my grandparents passed away in the same year, and my brother got shipped off in the army to Bosnia. And so you can imagine what Christmas was like. Christmas morning, it's my mom and my dad and me. So there's 3 other people missing. And it was so depressing because nobody was around, and we were all like, oh, the grandparents are dead, and my brother's gone, and things changed drastically, and that was not a fun, happy time. And it was different, and it was awkward. If you look around, you see people and why they're celebrating Christmas. I mean, people celebrate Christmas because they're celebrating the birth of Jesus. Like, even if you break the word down, it's Christ Mass. And Mass is like a church term where people get together to celebrate or to remember. And so Christmas, even the word broken down, is remembering Jesus. And we talked about the Bible last night and the whole circumstances around the birth of Jesus. I mean, if you read it at all, Christmas in the Bible was not perfect. The whole situation surrounding Jesus' birth was not a happy time. I mean, we don't usually associate Christmas with murder and deceit and pain and anger and confusion. Well, maybe sometimes we do, which is why we're talking about that. But we don't think about that in terms of when Jesus was being born. We see all these Hallmark cards, and it's like a happy, fun time, and this and that, and time to celebrate. Well, people weren't celebrating at the time Jesus was born. It was a really, really scary time because the king that was in power heard that there was another king that was being born, and so he sent people out to try and find this little boy, and he actually had a decree to kill any boy that was born within the last 2 years. So any boy that was born under 2 years old was killed because he was trying to eliminate Jesus. And the king got really threatened. And so Mary and Joseph, they retreated away to Egypt and came back and then gave birth to Jesus because they didn't want to have any part of that. And they didn't want their son to be killed. And so they ran away and then came back and gave birth after all the whole killing of these kids was finished. And so they avoided that and they left. Why do people celebrate such a disastrous time then? If this is what we talk about in the Bible, is people surrounding themselves with this pain and this hurt, and people trying to kill all these little boys to try and kill Jesus because they were threatened by his power. Why do we celebrate such a disastrous time then? Well, I don't think it's about celebrating the disastrous time. I think it's about celebrating the rescue from the disaster. I think that's really what Christmas is all about. I mean, if you look at the birth of Jesus, that wasn't a happy time. And when people aren't celebrating the murder and the pain and the deceit and the anger, they're celebrating what Jesus brings because of those things. I mean, Jesus was born in the midst of all these terrible things, and that's what people celebrate. So people aren't celebrating the disaster, they're celebrating the rescue from the disaster. I love Christmas, I'm not gonna lie. But I make it about what I want it to make it about. I'm a Christian, you guys all know that. If you don't, I am. And I try and move away from the whole commercialism of it. I buy presents and stuff, but I'm not motivated by the Christmas season to do all this stuff. I do it because I want people around me to be happy, and so I'm happy. I don't let it get to me. That's how I changed. That first Christmas that changed everything. I had to get over that. If I wanted it to be happy, I had to make it a happy time. And that's really why we're talking about all this stuff. I wanted to treat those around me the way I would want to be treated. And so if I wanted it to be a happy time, I had to make it a happy time. If I'm going to make it a crappy time, I'm going to be a crappy person. If you're one of these people that hate Christmas, it doesn't have to be like that. If you want it to be happy, you got to start with you. You got to start with you treating others around you with a little bit of joy and a little bit of love and a little bit of happiness. Even if they don't give it back to you, that doesn't matter. That's their problem. That's not yours. And if you know the Grinch at all, that's really what happens, is he dishes it out and it doesn't affect them. And that's what changes him. And we're going to talk more about that in the coming weeks. But if you're a person that hates Christmas, it doesn't have to be like that. Don't let your circumstances guide and direct how you feel at this time. If you want it to be a happy time, then make it a happy time. I mean, it's okay knowing the circumstances around what happened in the Bible and why we celebrate that. If you're not overly stoked about Christmas, if you read the Bible story, people weren't overly stoked about what was going on then. But they were stoked about what was happening in the midst of those disasters. They knew that rescue was possible. And it happened in the form of Jesus. And that's what you should know about bringing into this holiday season is knowing that it doesn't have to be disastrous. And it might be, but you can get around that by knowing that there's rescue in those disasters. Jesus provides a rescue from all of this. Maybe in knowing the real Jesus and not some hyped up feel-good Christmas card or whatever. Maybe if knowing the real Jesus will help you realize that Christmas doesn't have to suck. You don't have to have your circumstances dictate what's going on at a time that should be happy. I mean, maybe you have to look beyond the disasters to the one who actually does the rescuing. Think about that. We're going to be talking lots more about Christmas and the Grinch and all that in the next couple weeks, but think about that. It's not about the disasters. It's about being rescued from those disasters. Campus Life video blog. Merry Christmas.